Hello again, everyone. This is Randy, your sewing machine man. We're looking at a Singer. It is a model 5930, and it's what it is a doggone, what's this, porcelain, pottery. You know, it's like they pour it into a mold, then they fire it, finish it. It's not metal. The whole framework and all is just, it's pottery, and it's designed to be crushed and the parts swept away and the metal taken out. It's to be recycled. They actually signed its last day's death warrant when they built it, so I guess that was something they were into. They didn't want to have any cast iron lying around lasting forever, so this little guy here, and this one, believe it or not, has lasted this long. Someone's taken pretty good care of it, even though they sewed on something real heavy. This one came in with the needle plate bent, and the needle plates like this, I'll show you how easy they bend, and I'm not Clark Kent or Superman, but that's how easy they bend, and they come in bent down because the presser foot pushes down on them, and they're bent down, so I have to straighten them back up again, but they are, well, a little too much. I got to go back a little bit, just ever so slightly. And that's how flimsy the needle plates are. When the needle plate's going clackety, 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 and it's bouncing up and down, it's because it's bent. You have to take it out straight to put it back in, and then keep doing that until it finally fatigues. You buy another one. Hopefully the one you get is a reinforced one, but they're pretty sad. Now this comes with a 66 class bobbin. It's what it's called for. Sometimes it ends up with a 15 class in it. You can see that the 15 class is too tall, and it'll sit in the bobbin case too high, and the thread will hang on it. These are the things that always happen to these machines. They're fraught with peril. The thread hangs up, and then it jams, and then the customer gets in here and starts working on it. And a lot of times they don't know how to get that daggone bobbin case out of there, and the bobbin case comes out very easily, like everything on these machines, if you know the puzzle. Here's a brand new bobbin case. What's that? 421326. You can order these online. If you can recondition the old one, it's better, because even though it's plastic, it's older plastic, the new ones are, you never know when you get one of these plastic bobbin cases. Some of them work out of the box, some of them do not, and it's just because they're thrown together by whoever made them that week. I don't know how they do things, but if you get a new one, looks like that. That's how a new one looks. The one in here I reconditioned because it had some issues, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Folks try to get these out of, you know, if it jams. This one came in with the tension dial on about zero, between 0 and 1, so it was probably jamming. And of course, when it jams, the problem presents itself down here in the bobbin case area, and people think where the problem presents is where the problem is. No, the problem is caused somewhere else, and it presents down in this area because it jams down in here because there's no tension, so it won't slide past the thread gap. The thread gap, as you can see, I'll show you real quick what the thread gap is all about, because a thread gap on every machine is absolutely important. Once the thread, it comes around, see it's swiping across the top, slides through right there. That's the thread gap. There's a thread gap back here and one over here. And when there's no tension, it just piles up down here. And they can't very well, why is it piling up? It must be a problem down here. Nope. Everything down here is fine. Well, it was until you got in there and started monkeying with it. And to take this thing out, you don't, let me take this slide plate off. It comes off just like that. Has a slide notch there, and it goes right back on like that. So to get this bobbin case out, you don't fool with this screw on the side, or this screw on the side, or this screw on the side. You leave these screws alone. That's a preset from the factory. Almost always it's set properly. Leave these screws alone. Over here is a little gate on the back, about the 11 o'clock position. And look, it just swings right open. Push my thumb on it. See how that works? Swings right open, swings back shut. Let me show you how that works up real up close, because it's so easy. You think, well, why did I get a screwdriver and pry on that bobbin case and break it? That's how these get broken. They get broken. Instead of looking like this, they look like that. That snaps off. This snaps off down here, that nice round bottom on it that has to be there to sit on the lip here. The tolerance is real close, so you can't be snapping these off. This one came in not quite this bad. It was a little bit longer, and I reconditioned it. But if you look over here, rather than have to pry it out, this little gate over here on the side, I get my nail, I just push it, look, right out of the way. Lift the bobbin out, lift the bobbin case out, there it comes right out. Just the simplest thing in the world, like every puzzle, if you know the secret to the puzzle, and that's it. Now this one, see, it's a little bit shorter. I polished that off, rounded it off, because it was broken, jagged here. It was really in bad shape, and the down here was good. So I just polished it off with crocus cloth and emery cloth. I got my file. You know, you get your little files, you get them at Northern Tool rather, or National this, or Freight that, and they're just diamond embedded. And it'll make quick work of this plastic. You can just get this rounded off real nice and easy, nice and smooth. Then you get your emery cloth. It says emery fine. You get it at the Home Depot or Lowe's in the paint section. And then you do that, and then you polish it real nice and smooth with your crocus cloth, industrial grade, and it's fine also. We'll just say there, yeah, fine. So you get it going, but you put it back in, of course, not messing with any of your screws. And this was pretty jacked up. This was bent when it came in. This was bent when it came in because it kept hanging up. This must be in the way, because you don't know the logic to a sewing machine, because there's not a lot of logic. So you look at it and your logical mind says, this is wrong, this is wrong. So you start bending things and straightening things and perverting things. And this is straight across, this fits there, your thread gap, that swings out of the way. This was bent down, this was bent down, and the bobbin case was pinned in there. It wouldn't even move. It has to have a thread gap. So with this out of the way, in the upper left-hand corner, you put this in like so. It drops into position. It just sits in there. And this little guy right here sits right on the lip inside there. And then you close that little door. I'm using my fingernail, that's all there is to it. It's the easiest thing in the world. And it sits in there like that. It moves back and forth. It has to have that thread gap so the thread will slide through. And the thread gap, you'll see it slide through back here and down here. There's two places it passes. Every time it makes a stitch, every time it goes under there and goes around there. And the width of this and the width of that is the width of the thread. So you can see that's a pretty small adjustment. You're not talking about this thing really, if it's really jumping around, it will pop out on its own. And over here is the adjustment for that. You might want to leave these alone, these two screws over here, or your position bracket. Leave those alone, because chances are problems in the bobbin case, got a chip out of it, or it's not in there properly. But this one, when it came in, the left-hand screw, which controls the tension, was completely missing, because a lot of times these will come from the factory. These little guys right here will come brand spanking new from wherever they make them. And of course you load them in so they're turning counterclockwise. You put it in the slot here about the 7 o'clock position, comes out about the 10 o'clock position. No, make that the 8 o'clock position. And you pull on it to test it to make sure it feels right, without touching the bobbin. You pull on it. There's a nice, gentle little pull to it. But sometimes you'll pull and it absolutely refuses to move, because when they put it together with this piece of metal too low. It has to set up near the top edge here, has to sit up near the top, so this clears the top of the bobbin. If it's down too low, sometimes these are poured or miscast, however you want to say it, but this will sit too low and it just pins the bobbin in. So the customer will loosen this screw, loosen this screw, loosen this screw, and try it, and still, they take the screw completely out, and it's still too tight, because it's not a tension issue, it's not a screw issue, it's a slide, loosen both screws, this one that holds it, and this one that adjusts it. Then you put your screwdriver in there, and you lift that up, so it comes up higher. It can't be recessed down in, it's got to sit up high, and it flops around in there, it's not real exact. So you get the tension set, put it back together, and then you're ready to go. But that breaks off, this breaks off. Don't pry them. Just open and close the gate. Make sure there's a thread gap. Simplest thing in the world if you know how it works. If you don't know how it works, of course, you're working against logic because it makes it tough. We'll put this back in here. Put that there. Bring this over here. Turn the hand wheel toward us. Pick it up. Get ready to go. Put the slide plate back on. The slide plate, like I said, just has the opening in the front, both sides. Catches both of these little guides here and slides right on like so. And then you put your fabric in and you hold both threads to the rear, hold them tightly, and you give her the gas, and away you go. Now this one, of course, when you wind the bobbin, it's got the pinch point on top for winding the bobbin. It's got the standard bobbin winder on the top. I showed you in a couple of the videos how to do it. So over here on the right, you put the bobbin on, put the thread up through. It's got a little button on the side of here to release. You push the button, it releases it. So you spin and you push the other side and it re-engages it to sew. Always make sure your spool stop is going the right direction. This came in with a spool stop going the wrong direction. It can be as critical as that, going the wrong direction. That small one can't be, it can't be on that side smaller. I'm sure you can see that here. Let's do this. See, it's like a twofer. You got a spool stop that goes for the bigger spool, like that, so it's bigger than the spool, so the thread feeds off the edge. You got the small side for the smaller spool, but you don't want your thread feeding off the edge of the spool. You want it feeding off the spool stop. That's why all these machines that have this horizontal delivery, this horizontal, you want to make sure you have a spool stop. If you try sewing without a spool stop, oh, I don't have time to go looking for it. It's in my accessory somewhere. I don't really need it. Yep, you really do. Find that spool stop and make sure it works, because without it, you are going to have a malfunction and you won't know why. Threading it, of course, like I say in all my videos, step one, raise the pressure foot, go through your threading procedure. When you get to this side over here, you lower it, pull, make sure it feels like someone has a hold of it and won't let go. That's how you know you have the proper threading. Tension on 4, 3 to 5 is the range. Keep it on 4, you'll be fine. And this machine is for light use. It is plastic, and the framework of it, even though it's porcelain, it's not metal, that's not that big of a deal. I don't see that much failure for there. It's put together with drywall screws, sheet metal screws, whatever you want to call it. But that's not as big an issue. It's down underneath. It has feed gears down underneath. It has 1, 2, 3 big old nylon gears and one little flimsy, crumbly, deteriorating plastic gear that for some reason they thought it was necessary. I don't know why, but they didn't contact me when putting this together. So you can't sew on denim with it. It'll bend your needle plate. You can't sew on anything other than shirts and blouses and jammies and pillowcases. I would be very delicate with this thing. It'll give you some service, but just don't try to challenge it to do heavy stuff. I wouldn't make a saddle. I wouldn't, recover the spa with anything like that. It's a serviceable machine. If you got one, fine. If you see one online and it's like $15 and they say it works, it means they have turned the light on and stepped on the gas, and that doesn't mean it sews. A sewing machine that works in their mind is one thing. To me, a sewing machine that sews, because a sewing machine has to sew, it doesn't work. It sews. If you look at one online, they all, just for service, they all work fine. You get it, and there's something wrong because they didn't know about this gear down here. So if you see one of these, I would pass it up, because if it has the broken gear down there, you're looking at $200. You can do better. Get you a Kenmore 158 series, or even an old Slant-O-Matic Singer. But, this Singer sells like hotcakes because it has the name Singer on it. And people say, well, I only paid $15 for it. Well, okay. Go to the back door, throw the $15 out into the wind, and then maybe somebody will find it. Maybe buy lunch. That's a better use of your $15. This machine has seen its better days. If you have one, just be easy with it. But don't buy one, because back when it was sold, it was a little bit better. Right now, not so much. Singer, $59.30. Thanks.